1.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Goldberg. I'm a Director of Product Marketing at Snowflake, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. For this Snowflake Office Hours with Exchange Solutions, we're going to talk to them a bit about their experiences with Snowflake. Exchange Solutions delivers personalized loyalty solutions to retailers that enable them to build deeper and more profitable engagements with their consumers. And over the next 30 minutes, we're going to spend time talking with Brenda Higuchi, SVP of Analytics and Optimization. At Exchange Solutions, she leads her team in the design, build, and operations of advanced analytics and machine learning apps that are fully integrated with their technology to achieve customer engagement and loyalty goals. Brenda will be talking about the Exchange Solutions journey and success with Snowflake, and she'll also be joined by Andy Marsh on her team, who's Director of Data Management and manages their database and data warehouse technologies, and he will be helping out more with the technical Q&A at the end. So as this office hours event proceeds, please type all questions you have into the Q&A panel in the On24 dashboard, and then at the end of the event, we're going to leave plenty of time for me to verbally ask your questions to both Brenda and Andy. Please ask any and all questions, as no question is off limits. And with that, Brenda, off to you.
Thanks, Joe. Just first of all, I wanted to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone. I hope in these times you're all safe and healthy at home, and just want to thank you for your time today that we could share our story. First, I thought I would take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit more about Exchange Solutions. You've probably not heard of us before. We're a fairly small company, 100 plus people in client services, technology, and analytics. However, we've been around for 20 years and been privately held over that whole time. As Joe mentioned, our focus is in loyalty and personalized offer solutions, primarily focused on the retail market. And we do that through a combination of SaaS and managed services. I'd like to take just a second to kind of talk about what really differentiates us in the loyalty space as these personalized offer solutions. We do it both to boost loyalty programs with personalized offers, as well as engage non-loyalty members in the e-commerce space. And that's partly why we were particularly interested in the solution with Snowflake, is because our applications are powered by real-time advanced analytics and machine learning capabilities, really embeds the intelligence in our personalized offer solutions. We also present real-time performance results to our clients as an extension of our loyalty products, which gives our clients an opportunity to make really educated business decisions backed by results that are available on demand. And in order to power those solutions and have the performance that we needed something different than what we were currently used to. So I'm going to talk now for a minute about what our situation was before Snowflake, and a little bit more into how we managed it with resources as well as platforms. First and foremost, obviously analytics is a key element to our solution and our products and the intelligence that we're embedding in our technology. However, before Snowflake, we had a real dependency on technology resources to be able to deliver on that and constantly evolve and innovate our solutions. So we had, for example, all of our databases were on-prem, and we would have to require support from both dev, QA, and operational technology resources. And so naturally, the demands of what we were trying to accomplish in analytics were subject to things like prioritization, and to be able to get the required dev resources to support that. We also, because our databases were on-prem, and we were trying to maximize the performance of those databases with our queries, there was a lot of maintenance involved, particularly the resources in Andy's team to do ETLs, to do aggregations, develop indexes, set partitions on these databases in order to increase performance. So some of the pain points we were trying to solve for when we were looking at these types of solutions, first and foremost was long cycle times from development through deployment. So we had multiple handoffs from requirements and analytics through to development into QA, and then ultimately analytics QC. And then if we were finding any issues with that deployment, then we would have to repeat that cycle. So oftentimes when we wanted to add or enhance our databases, it took longer than what we would like. We also had some significant resource contention. We operate with, as we saw in the prior slides, some very large organizations, global organizations. So the volumes of data that we're dealing with on a daily basis is significant. And so when the analytics team was running their queries, these queries could sometimes take hours or days to complete, depending on how many joins we were doing across multiple databases, that sort of thing. And so it just wasn't an efficient or productive way to approach what we were doing from an analytics perspective. And then, of course, as we evolved our products into more client-facing applications, we needed the performance to be able to back up that service so that when clients are looking at their reports via our console and their dashboards, that they're getting instantaneous feedback and not having to wait even several seconds for their queries to run and their reports to render. So why Snowflake? Well, we've seen a lot of value, obviously. We tested it against a few other competing platforms, but Snowflake came out the clear winner. And certainly the experience working with the platform over the last, say, 15 months has certainly stood up to what we saw in our proof of concept. Certainly it's improved our speed to market, and it's given us the autonomy we were looking for. So now within the analytics team, we actually control the data warehouse ourselves, so there's much less reliance on technology resources and QA resources. We're free to structure the data as we need it and completely control the change management process now. In fact, we did a bit of an organizational change where Andy and his team joined the analytics team with a focus on data management so that we could completely contain the development lifecycle within the team. With eliminating our performance issues, there's definitely greater efficiency. We've been able to reduce or eliminate altogether investment in aggregations, indexes, partitions, all the stuff we were trying to do, manage with our on-prem resources. And we are now so confident in using the Snowflake platform that we will be embedding in our client-facing applications dashboards into that client-facing console. So that's a project we have underway right now and should be realized in the next couple of months. So that's just, I guess, a little bit about us and kind of the challenges we were facing and how Snowflake's added value to our business. I guess, Joe, I'm going to turn it back to you to facilitate the Q&A.
Yep. Yep, sounds good. So thanks, Brenda. And a reminder for all of you on the call to submit your questions for both Brenda and Andy via the QA box in the On24 UI. And again, technical questions are more than fine. A couple came in here already. So let's see. There's a question came in around what are you using for ETL to get data into Snowflake? And again, I guess that could also include not just ETL, but if you've sort of home built any kind of scripts, that's fair game as well.
Yeah, that's definitely an Andy question.
So for our ETL, we've kind of more adapted the kind of the ELT mindset. So we're using something called Snowpipe, which is basically it's able to ingest files from we're at AWS, so we're ingesting data from S3 buckets, and Snowpipe is an automated tool. It just ingests files as they're loaded into S3. So we load those directly into staging area, and then we're using functions and procedures within Snowflake to actually load that data into our data warehouse and tables. So there's also something new called streams and tasks. So you can actually schedule, or we can schedule those jobs to run directly in Snowflake. So we don't currently need any kind of external ETL tool to solve this problem. Although there are lots of ETL tools, but we find that a lot of the good ones kind of follow this same pattern where they basically construct SQL and then just send that SQL over to Snowflake, and then so it's basically they're just basically query writing tools. So yeah, that's kind of the method that we're using for ETL.
Great. So yeah, that's good. Someone had also asked about how do you automate Snowpipe, and yeah, that can very easily be automated, whether it's streams and tasks or just through Snowpipe natively. It can listen to basically essentially listen to your tables in cloud storage, and as new data lands, it'll automatically microbatch it into Snowflake. And just to clarify for people new to Snowflake, Snowpipe actually is a Snowflake tool, if you will, that auto-ingests in data. But you can use standard third-party ETL tools like Matillion, Informatica, Talent, et cetera. You can create custom scripts if you want to, and then you can just use things like a copy command to bring data in from cloud storage into Snowflake. So a lot of different ways. Another question came in around what is the size of the total storage, or I guess, yeah, the total amount of data that you have in Snowflake. What's the approximate size of that?
Yeah, so we're still building a lot of our pipelines. So a lot of our biggest databases haven't made it over. We've done some testing on tables with billions and billions of rows, just to get a sense of performance and things like that, and how quickly queries can run under large data tables. Right now we've got probably a few terabytes worth of data, but in the long term, we're going to have upwards of 50 terabytes of data in Snowflake once we're done all of our pipelines.
Gotcha. Excellent. Another question came in around. Well, I'll stay on the topic of ELT. So, did you? Let's see here. Just one question in terms of the sort of the migration is: did you retire on-premise solutions already? And then, what did the migration look like? Was it kind of a phased approach? Did you have them running in parallel, or did you just sort of do a quick migration from old to new?
So all the things that are right now in production have been net new since we started with Snowflake. Our migration strategy is we're kind of running things in parallel. So we're continuing to run our old data warehouse, and that will probably run for a period of time. And then we're going to be migrating things over to Snowflake as we're done with them. And then once we're done all of the migration, then yes, we'll be retiring lots of. We have a lot of Postgres and Oracle data warehouse databases, and they will be retiring those as we get everything migrated over to Snowflake and all the validation done.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think, Andy, might be worth expanding for a minute on the fact that, we're looking at two different, I guess, styles of pipeline. One is the real-time data pipelines that give us the transactions as they're coming in real time, but then we also have to migrate over a ton of historical data, and so we're taking slightly different approaches with each of those, if you want to spend another minute on that.
Yeah, we found, and this isn't 100% a Snowflake question, but like our historical migration, we found that it's much quicker to do very large database exports wherever possible, just because exporting out of Postgres in more of a batch strategy is much faster and quicker than trying to do anything that resembles kind of more of a real-time system. But yeah, for our ongoing strategy, once we get all the data migrated over, we've kind of built triggers and things that are basically listening to our source operational databases and then streaming that data into an S3 bucket and then we have Snowpipe hooked up to that S3 bucket. So our data isn't getting into Snowflake in real time, but it will be very near real time. So we should basically have all of our operational data into Snowflake within basically a 15-minute lag. And that's just kind of an approximation and kind of how we set up our pipeline. But yeah, our ongoing solution is for getting data into Snowflake is quite different than our historical data load.
Perfect. So another question came in here. It's what alternatives for Snowflake were considered for evaluation, and why did you pick Snowflake? And so by the way, you don't have to mention specific names if you don't feel comfortable doing that. But basically, what kinds of technologies did you look at as an alternative to Snowflake, and then why did Snowflake win?
Yeah. So over the last few years, we've looked at a lot of different databases. Probably the other database we were looking at, just because we were already in AWS or looking at AWS, was Redshift. So it really, in the end, kind of came down to Redshift versus Snowflake. And basically, the biggest thing that made us, or not the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things that pushed us towards Snowflake was just the operational efficiencies. I think both databases seem to, at least at the time, seem to perform pretty well, and had they were able to basically do the same types of things, but then the idea of Snowflake just being in the cloud and we don't really have to worry about it, we don't have to manage it, we don't have to maintain it, everything just happens under the covers. That was a huge benefit for us. And then we also got into like Snowflake can support unstructured data, which for us was also a big deal, just because a lot of our source systems store data unstructured. So the ability to just get that data into Snowflake in an unstructured form was very beneficial. And then also things like Snowpipe and things like that just really pushed it over the edge for us.
Excellent. Yeah, one of the questions came in around, do you use a mix of both structured and unstructured data? So you just answered that one as well. The answer there is yes.
Yeah.
Some other questions came in around more on the BI side. So more than one question asked essentially, what is your BI tool and how many users are accessing Snowflake via that tool?
So I can take, did you want me to give a stab at that one, Andy? And you can add
yeah, you can
answer.
Yeah, why don't you answer that one? Yep.
Yeah, we've been Tableau users for a long time. And again, Tableau was hooked into our on-prem solutions, and that was part of the reason for all these aggregations and indexes and partitions, is to be able to make sure that clients accessing Tableau had the performance when they were looking through that. What we're doing now is actually migrating over to the latest version of Tableau server and embedding it into our console that's tied to our loyalty platform. So then we're getting into user roles and permissions and so on, and so it's this real-time kind of on-demand, and Snowflake will be underpinning that for us. So I believe Snowflake has a native connector for Tableau. Andy will correct me if I'm wrong about that one. So I think that's the reason. In terms of users, we're still, we have right now, I would say tens of users on our current Tableau platform. We're anticipating having hundreds of users in our new console once that's ready in the next couple of months. So we're working through all that right now, but we should have that shortly. Anything to add there, Andy?
Yeah, and about the users question, like we're pretty confident about the scalability of Snowflake. So we're kind of, as of right now, kind of using smaller warehouses to kind of manage just to keep the cost down. But when we get to the point of having many more users, we can quickly scale up the size of the warehouses or add additional ones to be able to handle that additional load.
Great. And actually, on that note, someone did ask a very specific question around what size of warehouses do you use for your queries to accommodate them?
Yeah, so our rule of thumb is start with the lowest one, and if that performs satisfactory, then go with that. So generally, most of our queries are fine with just an extra small. There are a few instances where we've used the small and medium. We've never really got to the point where we needed anything bigger than that. But we did do a lot of performance testing on the stake scalability just under our typical workload. And we did find that basically the performance doubles every single time you increase the size of the warehouse. So if we do need more power, then we would just increase the size of the warehouse.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
what was nice too about using the compute resources in that fashion is that it's linearly scalable like that. So if you're using a larger warehouse, it cuts the query in a linear fashion. So you end up fundamentally your costs don't change as you increase your performance. So that was an appeal as well.
Great. Another question came in. It says, what do you estimate your return on investment was by moving to Snowflake, and what areas did you see the biggest ROI benefits and why?
I'd say we're still working on realizing the full potential of Snowflake. As Andy mentioned, I think we'll see a lot more benefit as we migrate over our largest data warehouses. But in terms of our experience so far, and especially with this client in real time, we're certainly eliminating a lot of demand on other teams such as QA and development, and containing it all within the analytics team. And frankly, we didn't add any resources. So we onboarded a whole new client, a fairly large-scale client that's launching a major loyalty program. And we have not had to add any capacity to support at least the data side of that client, to be able to do that. From an analytics perspective, we just added it for services that they're paying for. But generally speaking, to be able to add a major client like that onto our product without adding resources certainly has paid dividends, and also minimizing demand on resources external to the team as well. So I can't give you a specific quantification. I just know it's significant. I mean, when we can onboard a client without adding headcount, that certainly improves our efficiency greatly.
Gotcha. Another high-level question came in here. What's the biggest challenge that you faced during the project? And by the way, this could be like people, process, technology. Anything's kind of fair game here.
Yeah, I'll give you my perspective. Andy may share, but I'll let him answer as well. I think, we still have a bit of a dependency in terms of developing the data pipelines, which does, in our world, still require some dev resources. So we still had to make those prioritization decisions, that sort of thing. But once those pipelines are built, there is no longer a dependence, and I think we're pretty self-sufficient from that point forward. Other than that, maybe Andy can share, but I've thought our implementations have been very smooth,
yeah.
Considering it's a big job of migrating warehouses.
Yeah, like it certainly, like our biggest pain point, as Brenda said, was just setting up our internal things so that we could get the data ingested into S3. That's just very different from how we've done things in the past. But assuming that if you already have that kind of infrastructure set up, then I would say probably the biggest, I call them learning curves for us, was kind of understanding the roles and permissions and how that works. It's a little bit different from how we kind of set things up in Postgres and Oracle in the past. So that was a bit of a learning curve. And then also just the support for procedures and functions and things like that. Like a lot of it we had to implement with JavaScript, with a bit of a different language for for some of our team members. But, I think everyone kind of ramped up relatively quickly. And the nice thing is that there's a complete support for just standard SQL. So you don't need to learn any kind of new language. So as long as you understand SQL, the ability to be productive is pretty much immediate.
Yeah, there was an amazing benefit for all of our analysts, but they didn't have any learning curve at all. They just have to connect to a new database. They're using a new SQL interface. But other than that, there's been some significant advantage even for analytics development. We've got our kind of dev test production schemas that we've implemented, but we always save space for the analytics team to develop new things, new tables, new processes, that sort of thing. And yep. I think it's been very efficient for them to explore and innovate compared to the environment we were in.
Yep. Great. So one thing, just Brendan and Andy, I kind of told you I might do this earlier. We have a lot of questions still stacked up in the queue and only about 5 minutes left. So if we can, for all the answers, if we can answer it in a crisp answer, let's go for that, so we can nail down as many questions as possible. And I'll take a cut at one of them. Someone's asking, is Snowpipe the ETL tool provided by Snowflake out of the box? I would say no. We're not trying to be an ETL tool. First of all, we're not going to touch the extract. Snowflake is really just to micro-batch data from cloud storage into Snowflake. So it can help with ETL processes. We're not trying to be an ETL tool. Let's see here. So question then for you, Andy, Brenda, is what kind of data model do you use in Snowflake to support your business needs? And did you have to change your data model at all when you did the migration?
So for our data model, we basically tried to mimic our operational database as closely as possible. And then we're also, for some of our other clients that we're going to be migrating over, we're going to be just using a standard, facts and dimensions, star schema kind of structure. So we have kind of found that kind of basically both strategies work really well. So it's almost like I think it kind of depends on what the best use case is for your personal circumstance. But we found just the nice thing about Snowflake is that it's a columnar database. So basically every single column, you can kind of think of them as an index column. So, going really deep into creating facts and dimensions and really structuring things very carefully, I don't feel like you get as much benefit doing that versus just kind of keeping things just intuitive and whatever's best for your specific use case. Gotcha.
Great. And also in terms of products, someone asked about product security. What kind of security measures do you have in place for the data inside of Snowflake?
So for us, we set up everyone has roles and permissions. So every single user has access to the things they should have access to. So we've structured our databases in basically we've got a staging area, which essentially nobody has any access to. That's just as the data comes in from Snowpipe, it goes into that table. So nobody has any read-write access. Nobody has any write access to that. And then we have our base tables, which basically all of our ETL user that we set up has access to that area. And then all users have read access to that area. And then we also set up a little kind of a development schema where users have access to play around with the data, create tables and things like that. So that's kind of like the three-tiered approach that we set up in our security model. And then we also set up a network policy so that only traffic coming from specific IPs is accessible to our account. So that was a bit of a challenge because we wanted to allow Lambdas from AWS to be able to connect to our database, and they always have different IP addresses. So we kind of had to figure that out to make sure that we had a static IP so we could allow that traffic. But yeah, that's kind of the levels of security that we have.
Great, excellent. Yeah, and just to build on that, yeah, with Snowflake, you can also encrypt data in transit and at rest with your keys or our keys. We do have the granular RBAC, multi-factor authentication, and also SSO integration. And we've got a laundry list of certifications like SOC 1 Type 2, SOC 2 Type 2, HIPAA, PCI DSS, and so on. One question, I'll take a quick cut at this one. Someone's asking about recovery checkpoints in case of data corruption. So there's a couple different ways to make sure your data is highly available in Snowflake. One area is around just user error. If the user's doing mistakes, we have a functionality called time travel, which lets you go back up to 90 days to a certain point in time to bring back a table or a database in case, again, a user error. Also, we have something called zero-copy cloning, where you can create, as it sounds, clones of databases or tables or schemas, and it's all done at the metadata layer, so you're not doubling your storage, hence zero copy. And so you can create clones as you go, and then always go back to those just in case as a backup. And then, of course, invisibly under the covers, the cloud providers like AWS, Azure, Google, they all do replication across a region in multiple availability zones. So if one of their data centers goes down, it's still, they still have two other data centers holding all your data. So there's a couple of different ways we do data protection. Okay. So another question came in then. It is asking, how did you change the company mindset from on-premise to cloud since you have retail client data?
I can try to answer that one quickly. I think, part of the motivation too was we're moving all our platforms to cloud. So we're building all our product in AWS serverless architecture. And so it only made sense. We were seeing the benefit of the IT ops demand in terms of resources, the performance of being in cloud solutions. So it was natural for us to look for a cloud solution for our data warehouse as well.
Gotcha. And then so just for folks on the line, we're going to probably go to about 10:35, about 3 more minutes. Just we've got some good questions in here. Another question came in around, can you name a few sample advanced analytical processes? And then another related question just says, what types of analytics are you doing? So we can talk to what you're doing with Tableau and any other analytics that you're doing internally.
Yeah, for sure. I think we talked about the BI stuff a lot. I think probably the more interesting that we're doing is we are running predictive analytics real-time embedded in our platforms. And so we do a lot of that development work off the databases in Snowflake. So we're doing a lot of, segmentation that has tens of thousands of segments associated with it. Tied to that are predictive behaviors such as likelihood someone's going to convert a basket in a session, how much they're likely to spend. When we're looking at the segments, we're looking at, with a loyalty member, you have profile information, but you also have a long history of transactional behavior in terms of purchasing, layering in both of instances, the economics associated with purchases. So we're pulling in product catalogs, and we are pulling in margin information right down to the SKU level. So there's a significant amount of operation in there when it comes to the intelligence that we're building that's embedding into our platforms. And so we just needed a rapid way for development and optimizing those solutions because, part of our business models, we get paid on the performance of these personalized offers. So they have to perform, we have to continue to optimize, and so we just needed that compute power to support that.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll handle one question. It's assessed about Snowpipe. Can it handle live streaming data? So the reality is, you can live stream data into the cloud storage, and you can use anything to do that. Whether it's we have a Kafka connector or Spark, but then Snowpipe would then take it from cloud storage, put it into Snowflake, and it does that in micro batches. It's near real time, so it can absolutely handle live streaming data being sent into cloud storage. It's just going to micro batch it, but yeah, I can handle it. Real quick, Andy, how long do you set the auto suspend time for virtual warehouses and why? Very specific.
So we went with a very short auto suspend time, just because we're using smaller warehouses. So the time that it actually takes to restore the warehouse is basically insignificant. You don't even notice it. So we went with the minimum auto suspend time, just for not using credits when it's not being used.
Gotcha. Perfect. And then just one, I'll do one last one here. But do you use any cubing technology or acceleration needs? So I assume that's on the BI side of things, but use any cubes or anything like that?
Yeah, we haven't really needed to, because I think we're using, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're using more materialized views than anything else to support the BI, right?
Yeah, generally we go with materialized views as the strategy. We do have some aggregate tables and things like that, but we're not planning on using any of that kind of thing in Snowflake, just because, again, it performs very well. So, yeah, we're just hoping that queries perform quickly enough against Snowflake, and then just the results get sent back.
Yep.
Yeah, we're trying to use real-time aggregation as much as possible so we can take advantage of the latest data.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing we do see with our customers is typically they don't need things like data marts or cubes for their BI tools to help with performance, because Snowflake handles that. So that's nice. Less data silos. So with that, I know we've kind of gone over a few minutes here. There's some really good questions, and I felt compelled to run past you guys. But we're now out of time, so I'm going to wrap up the office hours. I want to give a big thanks to Brenda, to you and Andy, and to Exchange Solutions overall for the great content. And also want to thank the audience for the great questions. So this is going to be recorded, and it'll be sent out to everyone who registered via email, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll see you at the next office hours in 2 weeks. And in the interim, I'd encourage all of you to visit snowflake.com to learn more about us. There's a lot of case studies and videos there. On the homepage, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial of Snowflake with $400 of free credits. And also, once you sign up for that trial, you're going to get sent basically a hands-on lab/tutorial that you can then follow to load demo data into Snowflake, do joins, do queries, and you'll have that aha moment on a self-paced basis with Snowflake within 30 minutes. So with that, I will wrap it up, and thank you everyone for your time.